Okay, we're going to get started. If I could have everyone's attention, please. Please bear with me. My voice is still recuperating. It is 7 p.m. and it is February 13th, 2019. We're at a Board of Education regular meeting here in the high school cafeteria, Kaga Heights. On behalf of the board, I'd like to welcome all students, staff, parents, and interested community members to participate tonight in the Board of Education meeting. The board values and encourages strongly public comment on education issues. Anyone having an interest in actions of the board may participate during the public comments portion of the meeting. We will have a sign-up sheet. I'm not sure where, but we will get it to you because there will be an opportunity for large group public comments at the end of the meeting. At this time, if everybody can, or actually, let me do the call to order first. Mr. Muccio, call to order, please.
Mrs. Eder.
Here.
Mr. Naaman. Here. Mr. Suchaki. Here. Mr. Dobbins. Here. Mrs. Schuker.
Here, 5 in attendance. At this time, if everyone can please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. One more vote before we get to work. If I can please have a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Moved by Mr. Suchaki, seconded by Mr. Naaman. Roll call.
Mr. Suchaki. Aye. Mr. Naaman.
Aye.
Mrs. Eder.
Aye.
Mr. Dobbins. Aye. Mrs. Schuker.
Aye. 5 yes, 0 no. At this point, I would like to ask Mr. Evans to come on up.
Thank you, Mrs. Schuker, and thanks for everyone for coming out tonight. Just to give you a little, kind of bring you up to speed as to where we're at in this process, we've been working for about a year, putting together a capital improvement plan, trying to get some feedback from staff. We've done some visits through the building. We've brought some different engineering groups in and taken a look at some things. And where we're at right now is we're in the process of two things. We need some additional community feedback as to our capital improvements in the building, and also we're in the process of interviewing architects teams, and there are 3 architects teams here that are here this evening, and they are anxious to hear what your thoughts are for the needs of the district. Just to let you know, we haven't been sitting still on capital improvements, so there's things that have been done, and there's going to be some discussion that's going to go on. We're going to put people into groups tonight with a board member so everybody can have their voice heard, because we know that there might be something specific that you have an interest in, and maybe not, but we want to know what your thoughts and feelings are about it. Some things that we have looked at to this point, one of the first major things that we looked at was the heat in the district. This building is 80 years old. The elementary building is about 60 years old. It still has steam heat and high pressure heat. What we did when we did a survey, we found out that our boilers are in extremely good condition. New buildings being built today are built mostly with low pressure hot water heat. To convert that would be an undertaking that we'd have to tear walls out and all the piping out because it's a different size piping. So we know that our heat source is in good shape. Our boilers are in good shape, but our heating units and the controls that run our heating units are not. If you drove by the building during one of the sub-zero days, you might have seen a window open. That was probably Mr. Amari's room, because even if it's -5 outside, it's still about 85 in his room because we have some control issues. So rest assured that students aren't freezing in the building, but we're not doing a great job of controlling heat. And some of those heat systems in those rooms are still original pneumatic systems, so we certainly know that we have to address the heat system in the building. And if you have students in the district, you know that August was a very difficult time with the heat, and air conditioning came to light. So we're going to discuss air conditioning tonight as well. We use univents in this building, and we can get into that a little bit more later on. We've looked at lighting improvements. In 2008, the building switched to fluorescent light with a big savings to the district right now. If to switch the entire district to LED, we'd get about a 40% electric savings. The cost of changing this district to a LED, all LED lighting, would be about $300,000. Plumbing improvements, we have some 80-year-old pipes in this building. So we know that we have pipes that have to be repaired from time to time, but we need to go through some of the the old piping in both buildings and do some pipe replacement. The swimming pool. Swimming pool's long been a topic of conversation. We had an engineering study done in the swimming pool last year. To make a long story short, when the pool was built, there's no vapor barrier between the inside walls and outside walls. What that means is that there's water weeping through our walls, and there's water that's kind of destroying the walls of our swimming pool. So the cost of redoing the walls of the swimming pool and moving the ventilation system on the roof where it should have been originally is about $465,000. I know we've looked at some alternate things. There's been a lot of discussion about whether or not we run a pool and how we run a pool. That's still on the table as well. Interior painting. Obviously, we paint every summer. We've painted every summer for the last couple of years, but we're just getting caught up on some painting. Exterior maintenance. If you notice that the outside of the building's been kind of spruced up the last couple of years, the village of Cuyahoga Heights donated their landscape crew, donated a large number of plants. We used some grant money to buy plants. So we re-landscaped the front of both buildings and looking to keep the building up to date and looking well outside. Buses and vans. Back in 2012, when we didn't pass the levy, buses and vans were frozen for a while, so we didn't keep up with our rotation of purchasing buses and vans. A bus, just so you know, right now today costs about $90,000, and that's all through a government contract bidding. Vans cost us between $40,000 and $50,000 to replace vans. We bought a new bus last year, 2 years ago. We've got one on the schedule for next year, but we're still a little bit behind on buses and vans. We move a lot of our special needs students in vans, especially those that are educated off-site, so that's as well. And one other thing to kind of throw in the mix, we've also looked at solar panels down on the hill towards 77. We've had one group in talk to us about possible solar power and how that might take some load off of our usage here, and we're going to explore that as we move forward as well. Those are some things that have been done. We're not going to talk about windows. The windows were replaced recently. We just put solar shades. So we have been kind of pecking away at things, but we're not hitting the big items. Just so you know, the district has right now, we don't have a permanent improvement levy on the books here. Cuyahoga Heights has never had one. The money that we've used has been revenue sharing with tax abatements through the three villages, of which I think there's one left, one agreement left right now with the three villages. And any of the recovery money from the embezzlement, which was about $2.2 million to start with, is in that fund, permanent improvement fund. So we know that we've got some money in there to get started, but we don't know what the long-range cost of what the project would be and where we might need to go with that. So we're going to, as we talk about this, we're not going to ask you to necessarily prioritize things based on dollars and cents. We want you to prioritize things based on what you believe the district needs. So at that point, I'm not going to get too much into it. I'm going to turn it over to Jim Whistler. Jim is our facilitator extraordinaire. He helps us run our BEST committee, our continuous improvement committee, and Jim's going to kind of separate us into some small groups this evening so we can all get a little bit of input, and you're going to have a board member or myself or Mr. Muccio, the school treasurer, in a group with you so we can work through and get some ideas and hear from you, the community, what your thoughts are about what we need to do as a district. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Evans. Yes, I am very, very proud to have played a role within the district working with the BEST committee over the last 7 years. The BEST committee really started out as an advisory group to the superintendent, really in terms of trying to create an atmosphere of more community relationships, really communications with each of the three villages, positive communication within the school district itself. And really, the BEST committee members have really done a great job of doing wonderful service to the district as it continues down the road of academic excellence, wonderful athletics, club organizations. Really, again, not just for the three communities that it serves, but also for the fourth community that we recognize within the district, which is the tuition program families that also keep the enrollment up so that, again, all these academic offerings can be made available to all of the students. We're going to follow tonight, and again, I also would like to echo the sentiments of Mrs. Schukert and Mr. Evans for your being with us tonight. This is really among the first steps in a long process to gain feedback from the three communities and also from teachers and staff members and so on related to what the horizon for the facilities should look like. This has been a process many school districts in the state of Ohio have gone through. But again, I think it's important that as we begin this process, that you all, as members of stakeholder groups, have the opportunity to add your input and your feedback at every step of the way we go through this process. Our first ground rule for tonight will be, again, the fact that we respect each other and that we are willing to listen to what everyone has to say. The second is that we will be reminded of our responsibility. Facilities improvements and maintenance are big issues and costly items. So again, this is a part of your responsibility to help us figure out what the best path forward would be. You also come here with a degree of relatedness. You are here for some specific purpose tonight, and again, it's that relatedness that will help us use this time to get a better idea of where our path is going. We also urge that you follow attentive listening. It's very important that we practice the skills of listening to each other, and that tonight you will see that you're not going to be asked to vote on anything. Your facilitators will be seeking to gain where your consensus lies. And consensus is not like a vote, because a vote ends with either a yes or a no. And consensus is more like, okay, where's the common ground that we can use to demonstrate consensus or how we agree. And also the other part I'd like to remind you about, even though dollar figures are going to eventually be a part of this conversation, Mr. Evans mentioned a few of those as we went through. This again is not, we're not asking you to just think out of the box in terms of daydreaming. This has been one thing with strategic planning that we have seen leads people into delusion. We can't promise that there's a box of money hidden somewhere in the high school underneath the ground level somewhere. So again, it's important that we recognize these financial aspects will be disclosed as they are unrolled, and then also the big point of how is this going to be paid for will also be addressed. But before we get to any of those parts, it's important we recognize where do we have common ground in relationship to what facilities improvements do we need to make. We are going to be having 7 facilitators with us, which will ensure that our groups will be small, which will be very important. And we do have an agenda that is well planned for tonight to gain your feedback. I'm going to first of all introduce our facilitators and ask them to join me here. And then I'm going to do a process where we're going to break all of you up into numbered groups where you will join your facilitators. And we're going to be centered over in this area, which is easier for me as an aged facilitator because it'll be easier for me to pass out everything if we're all in one part of the room. So first of all, group 1, as we, again, we'll get to the numbering process a little bit, will be Mrs. Schukert. Mrs. Schukert, if you'd come and stand. All the ones will be joining Mrs. Schukert after I'm done with directions. Our second group will be led by the Vice President. Mrs. Schukert is President of the Board of Education. Mr. Dobbin is Vice President. And there's Mr. Dobbins. He will be working with the numbers 2. Mrs. Etter, right here, is also a member of the board. She'll be working with the numbers 3. Mr. Nyman is also a member of the board. He will be working with the 4s. Mr. Shushaki will be working with the number 5s. Mr. Evans will be working with the number 6. And Mr. Muccio will be working with those who are blessed to be number 7. All right. And I'm going to leave the microphone at this time.
I just want to echo too, thank you everybody for coming out. I'm really excited to see that. I think I counted 35 people. I know from all different backgrounds, all different ages. We come with all different, experiences here. A lot of alumni here, which is always great to see. So I'm excited to continue this process. We had comments from the public sheet. Nobody signed in. Is there anybody that wanted to say something that forgot to sign in or wasn't sure about it? Okay, I would say if you have any comments, I would really recommend please email, call, stop on in, say something at a game, Jen.
I have another kind of thinking outside
Okay, so again, I think this will definitely spark conversations, so please share any further things, like I said, via email. I think I might be taking part of your spiel, but no comments from the public. Last word, Mr. Evans, before I close.
Where we go from here, what you're going to see is we're going to send out another a mailer that will have a link to a survey. We're going to compile these items, and it's going to be a very short survey, and we're going to ask people to just, everyone in the community to just kind of drag and clip what you think the priorities of the district are, so that'll give us one more piece of data. We're also going to do that with the students. We're going to do that with the staff in the building. 3 separate little surveys here. I know what the students is going to say first off, so that won't be any surprise to me. But I can't thank you enough, because a lot of great conversation came out of this, and I want to thank you all for coming out tonight, and hopefully as we move forward with this project, you feel at ease enough to please come forward and help contribute to the conversations as we move forward on these projects, because a lot of great conversation tonight, and we kept it to a little over an hour or so, but there's still more work to be done, and we can't thank you enough for that. So
Definitely. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to have a motion to adjourn the meeting. Moved by Mrs. Etter, seconded? Second by Mr. Naaman. All in favor? Aye. That's 5-0, and it's 8:39, and we are adjourning.